Hello, you're watching World News live from Warsaw. My name is Sasha Farbach. At least 8 people were injured in an overnight attack on Kyiv as Russia launched a barrage of weapons, including Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, Iskander ballistic missiles, and Kalibr cruise missiles. More than 70 air raid alerts were active across Ukraine by Saturday morning. Damage was reported in multiple districts of the capital, while the Kyiv region's governor said critical infrastructure had once again been targeted. The large-scale missile assault also prompted the Polish Air Force to scramble fighter jets, and air traffic at airports in Rzeszów and Lublin was temporarily suspended. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un extended New Year's greetings to Russian President Vladimir Putin, highlighting that the two countries had shared blood, life, and death in Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. At least 12,000 North Korean soldiers have been sent to fight in Ukraine. At least 600 have been killed during that deployment. In April, Pyongyang confirmed that its soldiers were fighting alongside Russia, and earlier this month acknowledged that it had sent troops to clear mines in Russia's Kursk region in August 2025. Various reports estimate the number of killed North Korean soldiers at between 600 and 4,000. Several thousand more estimated to have been wounded. Earlier this year, Ukraine's Ministry of Defense reported that North Korea is likely to send another 30,000 troops in the near future, although experts believe the number will be closer to 10 to 20,000. This is the new face of modern warfare, as drones become the #1 weapon in the ongoing war in Ukraine and are used as part of hybrid warfare across Europe. Counter-drone devices must keep up. This is where manufacturers like Sensofusion come into play, developing new technologies that protect the skies of its customers. More on the latest developments in defense technology from Kazimierz Wyszek.
What you are looking at right now is not a scene from The Matrix, no. This is an early drone detection system, a prototype produced here in Sensofusion, one of the leading Finnish manufacturers of anti-drone systems. This is where the world is heading to, all because of the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine. Killer drones and anti-drone measures, this is what modern warfare now looks like. But simply shooting them down is not that easy. That's why tech companies like Sensofusion are now in an arms race to protect their clients, including Ukraine. The first stage is detecting the threat.
We do all of the different methods of detection and interception. So we detect where the drone is flying and enable to take it down.
This is a prototype of an early detection 360-degree camera. It monitors changes in light and is capable of spotting a drone from a single pixel on the screen. First-person view or FPV drones can then be jammed by special devices, but jamming is not the only way to take them down.
Counter-drone technology is not a single technology. It's a combination of multiple very different technologies that are used for a single purpose. So we're trying to make sure that we have ongoing research on all of the different fields that we feel that are usable against drone targets.
One such measure are drones targeting other drones, but the latest threat on the front lines are drones connected with operators with fiber optic cables, thin strands similar to fishing lines, which make it impossible to jam. They're the reason behind scenes like this, entire fields near the front lines covered in webs of cables.
Distance and capacity of the weapons, it's around 1.5, 20 maximum kilometers. It's the way that the fiber optic drone are able to be very useful for the pilot.
But since these cables are so thin, they can also easily tear and break. And because the connection between the operator and the drone is the biggest issue, the next step is autonomous drones steered by artificial intelligence.
Russian Federation used the full autonomous jet drones, but the problem is that's without any successful. But they do it. The algorithm is still growing. So that's why we just 100% sure that we are going for the robot systems on the battlefield.
These advances mean drone defense is now one of the most important branches of security across the globe. And while drones can sometimes be defeated by a simple net, they're brand new iterations on driving new technologies meant to protect us against them. For TVP World, I'm Kazimierz Łysiak.
A Russian court has sentenced a former diplomat, Arseny Konovalov, to 12 years in prison for selling information to the U.S. while being posted in the country, Reuters has reported. Detained in 2024, Konovalov was shown in a video released by Russia's state news agency TASS. Russia's security service, the FSB, says he's been found guilty of treason for selling sensitive information to U.S. security services while serving as second secretary at the Russian Consulate General in Houston. Authorities have not disclosed what information was allegedly passed on, nor which U.S. intelligence agency received it. U.S. businessman and philanthropist Howard Buffett, son of Warren Buffett, has visited Ukraine, where he took active part in the evacuation of civilians near the front line, according to Ukrainian National Police. In a video shared on X, Buffett is seen receiving a shoulder patch from the White Angel Special Police Unit, which accompanied him during his visit to the suburbs of Kupiansk. The city is in the Kharkiv region, some 40 kilometers from the Russian border. Police say the vehicles Buffett donated helped evacuate 200 civilians from frontline areas. Buffett participated hands-on in the evacuation operations, witnessing firsthand the hardships faced by civilians during wartime. Serbia has seen continuous anti-government protests this year, attended by tens of thousands across the country. Led by university students, the demonstrations oppose the state capture and corruption of the ruling Serbian Progressive Party. This opposition has dominated the year in the country. Our Balkans correspondent, Pavel Czoskovsky, has covered these events throughout the year and has this summary of 2025 in Serbia.
Serbian society ends the year polarized after a full year of continuous anti-government demonstrations. The protests started in November last year after a concrete canopy of a railway station collapsed in Novi Sad, Serbia's second-largest city, tragically killing 16 people. Since then, they have not stopped growing. In the streets, on foot, and sometimes even riding bikes. Student-initiated protests demand the government of the Serbian Progressive Party to be held accountable for the Novi Sad disaster.
It is the consequence of a bad system and bad politics.
And call on the country's president Aleksandar Vučić to hold snap parliamentary elections.
What I see as the solution is for the government to slowly step back.
They persist, with some protests taking a violent turn mid-year. And the authorities respond with brutality. Reports of violent assaults are aplenty.
Serbia has won. You cannot defeat Serbia with violence, as some had hoped.
Things are orderly again on the first anniversary of the Novi Sad disaster, attended by tens of thousands. Only to erupt again in front of the parliament the very next day.
I think this is absolutely scandalous. The behavior of the authorities is scandalous. The behavior of the police on whose orders they're acting is scandalous.
The president does float the idea of calling for elections earlier than scheduled, but without providing a specific date, he fails to appease the crowds.
It is so hideous, to put it mildly, that I think that the regime is actually accelerating its own unpleasant departure from power.
And despite the constant pressure, growing evidence of democratic backsliding and constant nods to Moscow, he is still welcome in European capitals. All the while, protesters do not stop, aiming to present their own candidates for the general election when it will be eventually called. Paweł Trzaskowski for TVP World.
Let's move to France now, where 3 people were stabbed in a knife attack in the Paris subway Friday afternoon. The 25-year-old suspect was apprehended and detained shortly thereafter. In the span of 30 minutes, the suspect attacked 3 women on Metro Line 3 at the République, Arts et Métiers, and Opera stations. One of the victims was stabbed in the legs, and the other 2 suffered wounds to the back. According to initial reports, the wounds were superficial, and the attacker, who was known to the police prior to the attack, acted without reason. Nearly all of Gaza's current population of 2.1 million people has been displaced, according to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Palestinian news agency Wafa reports that those displaced are struggling with the ongoing effects of the war, compounded by harsh weather conditions. On Friday, Wafa released aerial footage showing tents sheltering displaced Palestinians along the beach in Gaza City. The United Nations estimates that between 84% and 92% of all residential buildings in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed by Israeli strikes during the 2-year war against Hamas. Speaking to the BBC, a UNICEF spokesperson warned that recent heavy rains pose a serious risk to children living in tents, saying that prolonged exposure to wet clothing significantly increases the danger of hypothermia and other illnesses. Poland is accelerating its shift away from coal and toward cleaner sources of energy. A key pillar of that transition is offshore wind, with major infrastructure now coming online along the Baltic coast. Our reporter Maciej Wilowski visited Poland's first offshore wind installation terminal in Świnoujście to see how the country is laying the foundations for a new energy future.
Long heavily dependent on coal, Poland's transition to clean energy is well underway. Earlier this month, we had the chance to visit Poland's first offshore wind installation terminal, which opened in June in the port town of Świnoujście. This is a massive 200-meter-high pylon for a wind turbine, one of dozens that will be installed in the coming years off of Poland's coastline as the country transitions away from coal and toward clean energy sources like wind power. Here at this facility in Świnoujście in northwestern Poland, these pylons, along with rotor blades, generators, and assembly parts, will be assembled to generate wind turbines that will be installed off the coast of Poland. In terms of its assembly capabilities, the terminal is one of the most advanced in Europe.
The difference between the other terminals is that here we've got a great capacity of the ground. We can do the different type of the assembly here.
Upon assembly, the turbine components are shipped out to sea, where they are installed at one of 3 future wind farms off of Poland's Baltic coast.
It will be a pre-assembly process. The tower will be installed together, connection via cable inside, and after transport on the sea, and on the sea it will be installation process.
Construction on the 3 offshore sites, Baltic Power, Baltic East, and Baltic West, is scheduled to be completed by 2040. The biggest of these, Baltic West, will contain as many as 280 turbines spread across 4 sectors. It's a project launched by Orlen Neptun, a subsidiary of Poland's state energy company, in partnership with Canadian power company Northland Power. Taken together, the wind farms could generate enough clean energy to power 8.5 million Polish households, particularly those living in coastal areas. Świnoujście, the seaside town where the installation facility is located, has become synonymous with energy. It's also the site of an LNG terminal that has supplied Poland with natural gas since 2016 and played a key role in the country's energy diversification. Together with investments in LNG and wind power, construction will begin in 2028 on Poland's first nuclear power plant, located some 250 kilometers to the east in the town of Choczewo. The combination of LNG, nuclear, and clean energy sources like wind power could become the energy mix of the future for Poland. Maciej Wilowski for TVP World.
And with that, we end this edition of World News, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.